The following video is for entertainment purposes only. If you would like to train in martial arts, please seek the instruction of a certified instructor. The 47 Ronin, Yojimbo, The Last Samurai, 13 Assassins. There is a flourish that samurai cinema has that's never been successfully transferred to video games. Until now. Ghost of Tsushima is a PS4 exclusive from Sucker Punch Studios, the same people who made the infamous games. Jin Sakai is a lone samurai fighting off the invasion of the island of Tsushima by the Mongols, led by Khotan Khan. Jin discovers that in order to take back freedom from the invaders, he may have to abandon the principles of the samurai. This leads him to becoming the Ghost, a mythical figure that people of Tsushima can rally behind, and a being that can take out an entire Mongol encampment by himself by avoiding face-to-face conflict and instead striking from the shadows. However, in this video, I want to focus on the face-to-face swordplay in Ghost of Tsushima. It's the best I've ever seen in a video game. It's simple but very engaging and varied with the inclusion of the stance system. The inclusion of the standoff is so cool and an awesome homage to samurai films of yesteryear. It's a very common motif to see in sword fights even to this day. I even used it in my last Fight-Like video. On a side note, thanks to the guy who waved into the camera. Very cool. Anyways, the swordplay in Ghost of Tsushima is top-notch, and even sheathing your sword feels very rewarding. So get out of that hot spring, find your favorite headband, and let's learn how to fight like the Ghost of Tsushima. Disclaimer, do not practice this with a live blade. So before we do anything fancy with a sword, we have to learn how to swing it. Place your dominant hand on the hilt of the sword close to the wrist guard, then place your other hand on the hilt close to the bottom, giving yourself about 1 to 2 hand lengths between your hands. The top hand guides the blade. The power comes from the pull of your bottom hand. Practice by slicing downwards and to each side 50 times each. Using a heavier bokken will benefit you more. Next, let's move on to unsheathing and sheathing of the sword. It's a little different for me than Jin because I've trained in Korean martial arts, and we carry the sword blade down, while Japanese-style practitioners carry their swords blade up. However, the idea is mostly the same. The sheathed sword has to be angled to match the angle of the cut you want to make when unsheathing the sword. For example, if I want to cut at a 45-degree angle upwards, I have to match that on my hip. Same if I wanted to cut a more vertical downwards angle. Also, when bringing the blade out of the sheath, think of it more as a pushing motion instead of a pulling motion. This will make it a cleaner movement. Sheathing the sword should be as easy as breathing. Let the back, blunt side of the blade run against the sheath, and once you feel the tip of the blade fall into the sheath, adjust the sword and return it to its original position. The more you practice this, the easier it will become. These skills were vital for a feudal-era swordsman, as a one-on-one fight often ended in a matter of seconds. Side note, unsheathing the sword has a philosophical implication as well as a practical one. Once a blade is unsheathed in a fight, it embodies the willingness to kill. It is not to be resheathed until the conflict is over and either your enemy or yourself is dead. It's similar to the rule of wielding a gun. Never point a gun at something you don't intend to kill. Lastly, let's talk about blocking. The terminology in the game is different from what I've been taught and am currently teaching in my own dojang. What the game calls a parry is what I would call a block. The enemy's sword comes down to meet your sword, which is stationary. Make sure your sword is slanted so that the enemy's sword slides off and away from you. If your sword is at a perpendicular angle, it becomes a core, or clash of swords. And with the enemy sword coming down on your own, the odds are stacked against you. Secondly, what the game calls a perfect parry is what I would call a parry. In this case, your sword comes up to meet the enemy sword as it's coming down, knocking it off its path, and leaving them open to a counterattack. It's a bit more tricky to pull off, and just like in the game, your timing has to be perfect. Before we start the fight scene, I just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed. 660 subscribers may not be huge for some, but it is amazing to me. Thank you so much for your support. If we hit 1,000 subscribers, I can start monetizing the channel and using that money towards future videos and upping the production value. So that's the goal, and that's where I'm trying to get this channel to. So if you like nerdy martial arts content, then please subscribe, and look forward to seeing you in the future. And yeah, let me know what fight likes you'd like to see in the future. Anyways, without further ado, let's fight like the Ghost of Tsushima.
こいつを固知したの。
はい。
お前の人生で作んない。
あなたがしなければならないことをする。そこより奥、道路のほぼ2回かわした。いいにして登録してください。